New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning, Laura Stiles, Rosenberg. Give it up for Michelle Kenney and Allisa Findley. Michelle, the mother of Antwon Rose, who was murdered in the streets of East Pittsburgh.
Correct.
And Allisa Findley, you're the sister of Botham Jean.
Yes, I am.
Thank you for your time today. Thank you for being on the forefront of this continued conversation, right? For this program, we have had to talk to other families and mothers that have lived through what you guys have had to live through. So this isn't something that, honestly, we find pleasure in doing because I'm sure just like you guys, dealing with this weight all the time, but you guys have to do it in a different way than anyone else. And I would just want to say that we thank you for doing that work and putting yourself out there so that we can, start to deal with police brutality, abuse of power, gun violence, how our young black boys are looked at immediately as criminals, accountability for police corruption. I just want to hear from you, Allisa. Why is this work important, and why are you doing this?
Well, for me, losing my brother was very hard. I think even from receiving that call from the hospital was probably the hardest day of my life. And once it sinks in, you realize, this is your life forever. You will forever be the family of a victim, and you hear other stories, and it grinds you because you relive it every day. And I don't want that. I don't want to have to hear another story. So whatever I could do through my platform, whatever Michelle could do, we're going to do it in the other families because it's hard for us, and we know it's hard for the other families. So that's why I do it. I put my energy into just trying to come together and create a solution. Instead of just talking about it and complaining about it, let's try to come up with a solution.
And for you, Michelle?
For me, when this first happened, I was just Antwon's mom. That's all I was known to be. So at first, as his mother, all I wanted was for the world to know what happened to my son. But once reality set in, it's like, that's not enough. I got to do something. We got to make this change. So in my home state of Pennsylvania, we're pushing House Bill 1664, which is just for the state of Pennsylvania. So when you get a call from Roc Nation or the NFL and they say, we want to put you on our platform and take this to another level, the answer for me is a given. It has to be a yes. Because I don't want to just see change in my state. I want to see it in the entire United States.
Yeah, we've talked about, how, there's obviously with the NFL, me specifically on the program, with Colin Kaepernick and what he was kneeling about kind of started this conversation. And, I stopped watching football. Then obviously somebody that I, consider a friend, Jay-Z, did this partnership, which, I took the stance of while I still don't forgive the NFL for how they treated Colin Kaepernick, somebody like Jay-Z, let's give him a chance. Let's see what kind of work he wants to work with the NFL to get done, right? There's, as our colleague Killer Mike says, there's many paths to freedom. We're not all gonna agree, but as long as we all know we're trying to get to the same destination and the end result. And so, there's people, and I've heard feedback from the PSAs that you guys are a part of that, there's people who feel like the NFL is disingenuous, and then there's the other feeling of like, this work has to be done though. Right. How did you feel when you were approached, Michelle?
And how were you approached exactly?
First, I love Cap. Let there be no misunderstanding about that. Right. And I will forever be grateful that he opened the door for us to have these conversations. But for me, I needed something to happen. I needed some laws to change. I needed there to be some education, some training, and some accountability.
And that's an important piece because people don't understand that money, this mainstream platform, in states like yours, in Pennsylvania, where, you know, there's a whole world outside of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia that this isn't a mainstream conversation for them.
Look at it this way. Meek Mills is pushing my son's story.
Right.
Who could better relate to what I'm going through than somebody such as him? Mm-hmm. For me, as Antwon's mom, this collab and this partnership was a given. Because it was given by God. It didn't have nothing to do with me.
Right. So, and this House bill that you speak of, right?
House Bill 1664.
It takes money to get these things done. It takes awareness. It takes marketing. It takes meetings. It takes
all of those things. But the truth is, it takes a conversation. Because unless we have a conversation with people who are open-minded and willing to listen and willing to stand up and say things need to change, nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So with Roc Nation and the NFL, we knew we could get these people in the room.
So what is this? Tell us about this bill. What is the purpose of this bill? What can it do?
House Bill 1664 changes the way we do policing in the state of Pennsylvania all the way. The first thing we did was address the use of force bill, because I don't think a lot of people realize that the standards for murder in the state of Pennsylvania are different for the police than they are for the average person. In the state of Pennsylvania, if a police officer perceives you to be a threat, if he thinks you might be a threat, or even if he is told to think it afterwards, it is okay for him to gun you down.
And that's why that police officer got off with
Absolutely.
no charges after 4 days of trial.
Not only that, he admitted the day that he murdered my son that he shouldn't have shot him. But he testified that he wasn't sure if Antwon had a gun. It gives them the opportunity to change their story within time. And as long as you're going by the rule of law, they'll walk out every time. As a matter of fact, he left the courtroom before I did, him and his family.
And now he's trying to get his job back.
Not only does he want his job back, he wants to be compensated. And for me, you can never give me back my son.
And there's no compensation that can change anything on your end.
There is no dollar amount that I would have ever been willing to accept to replace the life of my son, nor do I agree with any settlement that was made.
So it's about the force. Is there anything else? You said it's entire policing.
It goes back to accountability. So therefore, what we're asking is that we come up with a uniform system to keep track of when officers are discharged from other departments.
Right, because this guy had lost a job and taken this job in Pittsburgh.
In East Pittsburgh. And it's a common thing in the state of Pennsylvania. It's definitely a common thing in the state of Pennsylvania. And we're also asking that an independent prosecutor come in, not just when it's a police-involved shooting, when it's a police-involved matter. Because a lot of times, and even in Antwon's situation, from the DA's office to the police officers to court staff to everyone you come across, they're all friends. They work together every day.
Of course.
How can you convict your friend when you may need him to have your back tomorrow?
So what's happening with the bill now, as of right now?
We actually took 8 busloads of people volunteered to come. Volunteered to take time out of their day to show up with us in the state capitol, and we took that bill to the House floor and presented it to them. Right now, we've had meetings since then. They even had a state rep meeting in my community center in the housing complex that I live, trying to convince people that this was necessary. So what we need now is a bipartisan agreement, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, that what is happening out here isn't right. And amazingly, we've had some support that you wouldn't even believe. So what I need is, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or even a non-party, just get these state reps to say we agree and vote on this bill. And right now, we just need them to take a vote.
That's it.
That's it.
Well, salute to you for doing this work.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Allisa, your brother,
Yes.
we all watched this story of a police officer who went to the wrong apartment. And what took place after that was the framing of your brother to be some sort of bad guy. We saw the police put that media out in the news. We ultimately saw the conviction of the police officer, correct? Which she's appealing now.
No, she's not appealing. They filed a intent. That's just the norm.
Okay.
You have to file within a certain time frame. They did, but they haven't filed the actual appeal.
Got it.
And are they going to?
That we don't know.
We don't know. Okay.
Until they do.
Okay.
It was your mother after the trial that I saw walk up to a podium and talk about the corruption that she saw within the police department. I would love to hear more about...
Well, we can't leave out also, Ebro, the murder of the key witness as well. So
I wouldn't say key witness. I
Okay.
would say a witness.
A witness.
were there other witnesses also?
Yeah.
So there were other
There
witnesses.
were many other witnesses.
So a murder of a witness
A
that
witness,
happened. Okay.
Yes.
Within the weekend of the conviction.
Right.
Yeah.
I got the news when I landed back in New York from the trial.
So this corruption, how far and wide did it go that you guys experienced in trying to help the police officer beat the case of killing your unarmed, innocent brother who was in his own home?
Right. I think the trial revealed a lot that we didn't know.
Okay.
From my end, before the trial, I noticed the cover-up starting. From my brother was killed Thursday, we were in Dallas Friday. Saturday, we met with the Texas Ranger, Ranger Armstrong, who testified. And from then, we were asking him, the first question I asked was, what happened? What did she say? Did you speak to her? And everything I asked, he's saying, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. But volunteers to say, this is just a horrible accident. She's remorseful. This is just, and he kept saying horrible accident. After he said he only took over the case 5 hours prior, but he could sum up that it's just a horrible accident. I think from then he investigated this case to get Amber Guyger off, not to actually unveil any evidence. His investigation was just to benefit her.
And did you learn that this was more than an accident in the course of the trial?
What I feel happened is, I don't care what, the trial and all of that, I feel Amber Guyger was preoccupied based on that part what came from the trial. She was texting with her partner who she was having an affair with. They were making plans to meet up. She was speeding, trying to get home. So I do believe, yes, she got off on the wrong floor, got to the apartment, opened the door. But from opening the door, even before she got into the door, her training says if you believe that, there is a threat, you're the only one, you fall back, basically, and call for backup. She decided not to do that. She went in.
So meaning she gets to the wrong door, you think she may have realized like, oh, there's something going on here. I hear something. There's something strange, even though it's really that she's an idiot and was at the wrong apartment. So, okay, so at that point, she already, if she believed that, should have taken a different measure.
Right.
She didn't.
Right.
Goes into the apartment.
Goes into the apartment. So there was a black man standing there, and without asking any questions, shot him.
That's right.
Because, he's black.
That's right.
I believe if it was a white woman standing there, they would still be alive.
And that speaks to another reason why we're having this national conversation, is the perception of our young black men, and black men in general.
Wait, real quick, in terms of what happened, do you, because I didn't follow every detail of the trial, but I'd heard some conversation about the idea of drugs or alcohol. Do you believe that she was inebriated in some way? Because how could, I just am confused. I've walked into the wrong apartment once before. I have done that.
Right.
Got off on a floor, went to the door that was mine, opened it, instantaneously saw this is not my apartment because you can just tell it's not your apartment.
Not the same furniture.
Yelled
it's
sorry,
not-
closed the door, and walked back to the elevator.
Yeah, because they had even the defense brought witnesses saying that they made this mistake, went into the wrong apartment. No one died. No one got shot.
So was she messed? I'm just trying to understand if could drugs or alcohol have been involved.
They tested her. It came out. Well, that's what we're told from their
Right.
investigation.
They didn't do that night, by the way. They did not test her that night.
No blood alcohol content.
They did not test
That's
her
right.
that
They
night.
tested her a couple days later.
Okay. Well, that's not how drinking and driving works. You usually get pulled over and you need to get tested immediately.
Right.
Right. And the result from that test was she wasn't under the influence of anything.
Did you believe that she was actually contrite and upset about the death of your brother?
No, because again, from the trial, they had footage of her sitting in the front seat of the police car, just texting. She didn't look upset. She didn't look like she was crying. She didn't look like she was hysterical.
Which you'd think one would be after they killed an innocent person.
And at the time, my brother was still in the apartment, and she was calm as ever. Like I looked at the video and I thought she felt she would get away with this.
Because a lot of police do.
Right.
Absolutely.
And there's a culture in many police departments, and this has been going on for generations.
And she did before, because the year before she killed my brother, she shot another unarmed black man and got
Did
away
not
with it.
know that.
Yeah.
So this is just what she
wow.
does. This is,
The common denominator, though, between Botham's case and Antwon's case isn't just their personality. I think people fail to understand that we keep pushing that they need to be continuously trained, not trained on the front end. You need to be reminded of this training because in both of these scenarios, one officer is there and their training tells them to retreat and call for backup.
They don't.
And neither of them did it. And both of them ended up dead.
interesting, too, that you guys are here with the Roc Nation and the NFL. Because in the NFL, these are football players. They don't do training camp or practice in the summer and never practice again. You have to continually practice your job every single day.
Oh, and
this
by
is-
the way, now, thankfully, there's some mental health discussions.
Oh.
Absolutely.
And, we've talked a lot on this show about police officers in New York City, about how, there's the job of a police officer is traumatizing for a human being. Like your life is on the line often.
Right.
And when your life is on the line often, it changes your
Right.
brain function and your emotions and your sensitivity to certain things. And if we're not doing mental health screenings of police officers on a regular basis, that also leads to this sort of thing.
I do believe they get one mental health screening when they enter, and that's about it.
In the state of Pennsylvania, they get one on the front end prior to them being hired. I actually worked in a police department for over a decade. So I get that the job can be hectic. I understand. I have been there during mass shootings. I have been there during deaths. You name it, I've experienced it. So I get that. But at what point do we continuously allow them to operate with a badge and a gun and have the ability to take the life or freedom of an individual, black or white, without knowing if they're mentally stable?
I would say I was diagnosed with PTSD just from dealing with this trauma. And I didn't shoot anyone. So I cannot imagine a police officer going through this and probably, having life or death situations throughout a year and not being checked mentally, because that is insane. I'm sure we have so many, probably half of the police force suffering with something mentally, and it's being ignored.
Locally here in New York City, we have had 10 police suicides
Oh, yeah, the last year.
over the last year.
Yeah, something like that. It's crazy.
There's something going on. There's a problem.
There is a problem.
Well, imagine if any of us, God forbid, saw in front of us some big, huge shooting that we thought for a moment we could have been in danger. We would be deeply affected by it. We'd be telling everybody we know about it for weeks and months. This is part of their lives. That adds up as trauma. When people come back from war, a lot of people have PTSD for the rest of their lives. They have night terrors. So the idea that we act like they can just do this like their job is being an accountant, it's not.
Well, and then you throw in the marketing of America, right? And America has marketed the evil black man for over a century, right? And so if you're not entertaining and allowing the conversation about race in America, you know, and how it permeates people's perception of human beings in this country, specifically black men, you're doing a disservice oftentimes to not only where we claim we want to be as a nation, right? Not only that, but a lot of, obviously, these police officers who don't deal with black folks growing up go in police neighborhoods and are dealing with a culture of individuals that they have been programmed to think are less than human by society. And that's another big layer of this.
It is. I always look at it as you have individuals going through high school, some college, because some places you don't need a full degree. They were probably bullied as a child, and they have this, you know, anger deep inside, and then you put them in this community to basically protect people that they don't understand. And
sometimes don't like.
Right. And they basically don't like them. So the slightest thing, even though they say, show me your hands, you have a lot of people with their hands up getting shot. So why, I don't understand, why are we still putting people that are not, they don't appreciate us? Why are they the ones being hired to protect us, basically? That I just never understood.
It's Dallas, right?
Dallas.
Yeah. Is there anything happening locally in Dallas after this incident where there's cultural, like in Pennsylvania with the House bill? Is there anything happening in Texas or in Dallas specifically where this incident has shifted the culture of policing or their perception of what they're doing on the job?
Dallas, I would say, has been dragging their feet. We have a lot of promises and nothing being done. After the trial, the chief of police, Renee Hall, came. She did this whole press conference saying, you know, she will investigate, you know, all the issues that came up during the trial, and we're still waiting. Right. The only thing that changed was in Dallas, the officers are allowed 72 hours before giving a statement to, I guess, get their story together. That changed. They need to give their statement immediately. Okay. That was the only change.
And in Pittsburgh, other than the House bill?
You know what? We need support on the House bill because the people that are pushing the House bill either look like me or their kids look like me. We need some help. We need support because what I think that people create a narrative really quickly, and it's usually false. Because another common denominator between Antwon and Botham is black males are perceived as threats. But when you're sitting in your house eating ice cream, watching football, you can't be a threat because it's your house. When you're running from the police on a traffic stop and you don't have a weapon and he doesn't see a weapon, and you are shot 3 times in the back, there wasn't a threat. So I kind of think that we're not the threat. The threat is the person with the badge and the gun. Right. And what I want from Roc Nation and what I want from the NFL is to get us all on one accord that we can do this together and we can actually stop calling one another a threat and just look at it for what it is. If you break the law, you deserve to be punished. But just because you're black doesn't make it a death sentence. And that's what I'm hoping that this collaboration could get through to people. I look at it from the perspective of, if you look at the nationality of the overseer of the NFL and the nationality of the overseer of Roc Nation, they are not the same. And they could collaborate and they can make this happen. Why can't the rest of America?
Listen, we appreciate your time today. Michelle, it's a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Terrible circumstances. Also, Allisa, thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
We've had now, I want to shout Roc Nation. They brought people by here for us to have this conversation. And it's amazing that it's happening. It's amazing that Hov is putting himself out there and trying to get this done, despite people coming for his neck. And I understand why people are coming for his neck, and he could take it. But we all got to continue to have these conversations, as you pointed out, so we can hopefully make some progress, because we are living through this.
And I hope it doesn't stop with just Roc Nation and the NFL. There are so many other organizations that could join the fight. We have the NBA. We have so many. Everyone could join the fight. Let's not leave it up to just Roc Nation and the NFL. Let's all do this, because it hurts. It's not a great feeling to have your loved one taken from you suddenly and for no reason.
Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
Very
having
much.
us.
Thank you.